Hi everyone and welcome, this is the Apostate Prophet. Today I want to talk to you about one of Islam's rather historical aspects that is not really practiced today but is also a very important part of Islam and the Sharia, the Jizya. Jizya is something that non-Muslims are supposed to give to Muslims, but it comes out of their pocket, not out of somewhere else. Don't be fooled by the sound of the word Jizya. Along with that, I'm also going to explain the status of non-Muslims under Islamic rule. Now, when we talk about religious minorities in Islam, moderate Muslims usually tell you fables about how religious minorities were always protected and fully able to practice their religion freely. Only the protected part is true and not fully. Religious freedom was never really there. In order to understand the Jizya, first we have to understand the status of non-Muslims under Islamic rule, and that comes with learning about the word dhimmi. Dhimmi means literally protected person, and in context protected people. The dhimmi status was originally given to the people of the book, an Islamic term which appears repeatedly in the Quran and refers to Christians, Jews and Sabians. Later, the dhimmi status was expanded to Zoroastrians and polytheists, even though the latter was occasionally applied by Mohammedan Muslims in history, but very often simply fighting them was preferred, because if you read the Quran and understand Islam, you understand that polytheists are the most hated group in Islam. Now, this protected in the word dhimmi is not just some form of protection that you give to your poor religious minorities that need your help. No, protected people in the Islamic context refers to allowing non-Muslims to live their life in the Islamic State, to enjoy property rights, and also to have religious freedom, but not fully, very restricted. According to Islam, in order for a religious group to gain the dhimmi status, they first have to be approached by the Muslims, whereafter they are given the choices to become Muslims, dhimmis, or corpses. This system is a fundamental part of Islam, and it appears multiple times in the Hadith and also in the Quran. The most important hadith that I find about this is very long, but in short, it reports that Muhammad used to give the following advice whenever he sent his Islamic jihadists on an expedition. When you comfort the disbelievers on your expedition, give them three choices. 1. Convert to Islam and be equal to Muslims. If they refuse to do so, order them to pay the Jizya. If they accept that, tax them and protect them. If not, then besiege them and fight them. After that, if they appeal to you and want to be protected, do your best to accept it. If they don't, then kill and destroy them. Usually, Muhammad and other Muslims also took huge numbers of slaves in such cases. Especially children and women were usually enslaved and distributed among the Muslims. This hadith is very clear and authentic, and it's usually used by Islamic scholars in order to explain the Jizya and the context of everything. In more recent times, especially among moderate Muslim apologists, this hadith is barely used for obvious reasons. But it doesn't simply end with narrations of Muhammad. The system is also explained, not as detailed, in the Quran, in chapter 9, verse 29. Fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture. Fight until they give the Jizya willingly while they are humbled. It's very obvious, right? In short, Allah orders to fight all those who do not follow Allah and Muhammad, unless they pay the Jizya willingly. If they don't, then they are forced to pay the Jizya or to die. In Muhammad's history and Islamic history in general, this has been applied this way. But there are also examples where Muslims simply chose to expel all those who don't want to pay the Jizya. As for the amount of the Jizya, that is very hard to say, because Islamic scholars usually differed in how much money to take from non-Muslims. But it was certainly not equal to taxes collected from Muslims. And Muhammad and others sometimes preferred to simply take a non-Muslim tribe's production instead of the Jizya. In the Battle of Khaybar, for example, Muhammad took control of half of the Jewish tribe's production, and they were used that way until they were completely exiled from their homes by Caliph Umar. So despite what moderate Muslims claim, it was not just a simple tax under a different name. It was an obligation on non-Muslims, and the alternative was death, slavery, or exile. What some moderate Muslims also claim is that this Quran verse was only in relation to some conflict that happened in Muhammad's time, and that it was only temporary. But no significant Islamic scholar in history believed that. And fundamental sources of Islam will almost always prove the moderate Muslims wrong. Ibn Kathir, for example, who is still one of the most respected interpreters of the Quran, said clearly that this was a permanent order which abrogated any form of pardon for non-Muslims. In his interpretation of this verse, Ibn Kathir added, "Therefore, Muslims are not allowed to honor the people of the dhimma or elevate them above Muslims, for they are miserable, disgraced, and humiliated." And we are here talking about one of the most respected interpreters of the Quran of all times. To come briefly back to the dhimmi system, non-Muslims had no freedom at all, and they were certainly not equal to Muslims. Forbidden from proselytizing, forbidden from being too loud during their worships, forbidden from establishing new places of worship, and only few centuries later in history, Jews and Christians were even forced to abide by a strict dress code, such as Jews having to wear yellow belts and turbans, Christians wearing blue belts and turbans, and again later in history, Jews were forced to wear heavy wooden yellow calves around their necks, and Christians had to wear heavy large wooden crosses. I will go much further into that in a separate video very soon, and it will make you understand much clearer how Islam really treated minorities in history. As mentioned, all of this is not really practiced in the Islamic world today, due to the arrival of democracy, citizenships, and so on, mostly thanks to the Western world. It was briefly imposed in Egypt when the poor Muslim Brotherhood took over, that also played the usual victim card when they were revolted against and forced out by the Egyptian military. And it is practiced in places where Islamist reactionaries take control, such as ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Apart from that, fundamentalist Islamic scholars still propose the use of this practice, but states can't do it anymore due to international laws. Imagine if the Islamic world had not lost the fight in global dominance and progress, this practice would probably still be here today. The problem, as you can see, is the religion itself, not its adherents, not the West, not times, not interpretations. It is Islam itself. That's why you shouldn't have any love for Islam, and we should be able to call Islam what it is. An oppressive, supremacist, intolerant political system, not just an innocent religion for decent people. To give you a final hit of Muhammad, here's my gift for you. Do not greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you, and when you meet any of them on the roads, force him to go to the narrowest part of it. No decent person wants to be part of such a religion, and I'm sure you don't want to be a part of that either. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and my content in general, please do not forget to like, to subscribe, and to share. My videos are usually not monetized, so you can watch them without any ads. If you want to support my cause, you can do so on Patreon. The link to Patreon is below in the description, and there are also benefits that you will receive if you support me on Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support and your contribution, no matter in what way. I will be back on Friday. Have a great week, and please stay away from Islam.